Good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
So let's begin this meeting at 6:01 p.m. Before we get too deep into the agenda, I just want to say a couple of things. A big thank you to our district as a whole, our teachers, our staff, our site admin, our district leadership, really in community. Just so proud of how you have all worked together to adapt every day to these unprecedented times, while staying focused and without wavering on, the four pillars in our strategic plan. And just as important, very proud of our students and their families, who too have had to adapt, to these to distance learning, and the parents and the different platforms that our students really probably are more versed on and use every day. Just thank you to the families and the students, for your adaptability, and just continued focus on making yourself the best version of yourself every day. So thank you for that. So that said, get started.
For the purpose of roll call, I'll be calling each board member's name at this time. Please say present or here for the record. Beverly Pingarelli.
Present.
David Sandoval.
Present.
Judy Doan.
Present.
Monica Ceja Martinez.
Present.
Corey Underhill.
Present.
Thank you all.
Thank you. Perfect. And we have the agenda up. Yes? There we go. Okay. So what I'd like to do now is get into our moment of silence. And Ms. Stone, if you wouldn't mind leading us in the pledge, I would certainly appreciate it. And if, as we go through our moment of silence, if we can have, all those who've been impacted, which are many, all of us, by COVID-19, and certainly those individuals who have lost loved ones. So if we can recognize a moment of silence for a few moments, and then Ms. Stone, if you can lead us in the pledge, I'd appreciate it.
Fine, thank you. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Ms. Stone.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on. 3.1, address agenda and consider adoption or recommended changes. Any board members would like to make any changes to the agenda? Ms. Ceja?
Not at this time, thank you.
Okay. Ms. Underhill?
No, I'm fine, thank you.
Ms. Pingarelli?
No, I'm good.
Okay. Ms. Stone?
No, thank you.
Okay, and I'm good as well. Thank you for that. Moving on to 4.1, staff recognitions. Ms. Ari?
President Sandoval, Mrs. Pallas Thompson will address everything on behalf of the district this evening.
Perfect. Thank you. Ms. Pallas Thompson?
President Sandoval, I believe she'll do that under superintendent comments, if that's all right.
Oh, no, that's perfect. Thank you for that. I totally forgot about that line item. Okay, going on to 4.2, board comments. Ms. Stone?
Well, I would like to say that I have been impressed by the hard work that has gone into everything that the district is doing. The amount of meals that have been served to children, and it's just outstanding. The time that has been put in and the success of the distance learning, and even like just setting up this board meeting, it has been very impressive and a good show of skill and dedication. And I just want to say, bless you all and thank you all, everybody that has been a part of this hard work. And I'm sure our community, our parents, our students all feel the same way. Well, except some of the students wish they were just off, I'm sure. But I'm very grateful and thankful for the hard work and dedication of our staff, everybody that is involved in this. And, I just hope that there's a blessing in it for all of you. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Stone. Ms. Fingarelli?
Well, I just wanted to add on to Mrs. Jones' great comments, and I just wanted to also say thank you to everybody at the district, and also just to have everybody stay healthy and safe. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Ms. Underhill?
Yes, I would echo those same comments, and I just feel incredibly grateful for all of your ability to, basically pivot and adapt and overcome and do it all with grace and positivity. I know all the parents and students I've talked to have just been so grateful for the constant connection that their kids have had with their teachers. And you all and the staff and the district, and I know that you all have been going through those same challenges as everyone else with probably kids at home underfoot and that kind of thing. So just really appreciate your dedication, your continued, ingenuity and creativity, and your willingness to put others before yourselves. So yes, thank you, big gratitude, and yes, everyone, please stay healthy.
Thank you for that, Ms. Underhill. Ms. Sehal Martinez?
Thank you, President Sandoval. I'll keep it two-sided. I heard and received this quote and seen this quote, so I'm going to say it as it sums up everything on the adult side. Is we are not working from home. We are at home during a crisis trying to work through that. And that's truly what not only the staff, the frontline staff, administration, but our parents and guardians are working through this crisis, and it has been unbelievable. So thank you for that. It is noticed, it is appreciative, and we have always said, take care of yourself first so that you can continue to provide for your family. The other side of that is our students. Absolutely amazing that these children become young adults and are about to enter what will be a different lifestyle. And I bring them up because when I go shopping, I notice our students are in these grocery stores and working. They have stepped up and found an opportunity to help their community by going to work. I've met most recently a Cactus High School senior. She didn't even graduate just yet. She's around the corner as we work through it, but she already wanted to help out, so she got a job in the grocery store. So I just think how awesome our kids are as well, and thinking about others beside themselves. So thank you, everybody.
Thank you for that, Ms. Martinez. Yeah, I'm going to really just echo everything that all my fellow board members have stated. Again, it is an honor. It is inspiring to see so many individuals and really the entire district and the community at large, all of our stakeholders coming together and just being compassionate and very mindful of why we're here, and always leading with others in mind. The collaboration, again, like I mentioned earlier, that I've seen is just been amazing. I had the opportunity a couple of weeks ago to assist the food service department as much as I could anyway, without a food service card. But spent about 4 hours at Liberty, handing out food, to the students and their families and the community as they came through. And on this particular day, they did, I think, in upwards of 550 meals, breakfasts and lunches. And then yesterday, I had the opportunity to travel with our transportation department and some of our food service team. Our first stop was loading up at Cheyenne Elementary and hitting, a couple apartment complexes, where we have our most vulnerable students, and just the district's understanding, of those dynamics that we have as a district, and those students who may not have the ability to, drive this site, have been very intentional on making sure that we uphold our promise and really our vision, which is every student every day. So again, thank you to everybody for that. And like Mrs. Seah Martinez stated, I mean, our students, their ability to adapt and maintain, a high level of confidence and optimism as we move forward is just, again, inspiring. So thank you to everybody for that. That said, 4.3, Superintendent comments. Mrs. Palace Thompson.
Well, good evening, everybody. I have to echo all of the words that you just said as far as when we're looking at the effect and the impact and the success of what we have accomplished in the last, and we're in the middle of our 4th week now. And so it's been a interesting voyage. In my message to the superintendent, on Tuesday, I talked about heroes. And I know that Dr. Reynolds and all of you have been talking about the heroic behavior of our staff and our community, of our classified, our certified, the community, our community partners, our parents, and as you just said, Mrs. Seah Martinez, certainly our students. I need to also, though, thank specifically you, our board, for your trust and support and confidence and love. We could not have done this with a different board who has really come through and said, you got it. We trust you. You have it. And the comments that you give, the support that you give is unbelievable. And we couldn't do it without you. I also have to say that I have to really call out 3 people right now, specifically by name, who have made this particular event right now possible. I'm talking about the wonderful Kim Contra. Kim, you're amazing. You're amazing. Robert Oscarson, Robert, you're called in specifically to get this done, and of course you do it. And David Cully, you are the quarterback of everything that we're doing here. So that's thank you for putting this together. It was unique. It's something that we've never tried or done before, and I expect it to be amazing. My second thing that I have to share with you, we met virtually today with our student council presidents. Most of them are graduating seniors. We do this every Thursday. We have, monthly, but we've been doing it every Thursday. And last week when we met, there was such a sense of sadness and anxiety, perhaps even a little depression. But this morning, when we met with them, it was really different. There was a sense of resolve and a sense of hope, and there was some closure with them. And most of them, again, are graduating seniors. And I asked them, what have you learned? Like in The Wizard of Oz, what have you learned, Dorothy? And they said, well, we are thankful for being and for being alive is one thing. We're thankful for the quality time that we're spending with those people that live in our houses that sometimes, as seniors, we've kind of, go in and out, and they just don't, they don't see us. We're spending quality time with them, quality time with our families. We appreciate the time, and we're going to now, when we return, they hope to, take advantage of just the situation, this thing called school, and really appreciate it and not take it for advantage. And they've also learned, they've said not to put things off, to live every day, you never know, and to not just wish, don't take risks, but to do things. And the last thing they said, and they I don't know if they thought I would be sharing it, they said, we're your future. We are the leaders. And I want, they're getting, so old, they're calling me Linda, and that's perfect. But we are prepared. We are supposed to be prepared to meet tomorrow. We are ready. This is our defining moment. And of course, they brought me to tears. And they were amazing. So please note, all of you, everybody who's been working and a board, you don't get the appreciation that you should be receiving. Thank you. Thank you for everything you've done.
Thank you, Ms. Pallas Thompson, for that and those kind words. Okay, moving along to agenda line item 5.1, suspension of policy BEDH. This is an action item, and the reason for this line item is due to these uncharted waters in COVID-19. BEDH is very much aligned and specific to our board meetings on during normal times, right, when we're physically in the boardroom, and individuals approach the stage and speak on behalf of items not included in the agenda. So what we did do is allow for public comment via electronically. So, and from what I understand, we have about 21 items 21 public comments, that are tied to 8.2, which is the COVID-19 update. So that said, we will read every one of those before that line item. But at this moment, what I do need is a motion to suspend policy BEDH temporarily until we get through this.
Okay. President Sandoval, may we have discussion first?
Sure.
Okay. And I appreciate that. And the only reason why is we as a board have been consistent in and engaging with our public and still want to encourage feedback. And so there are many ways in which our community can engage with us. There is a recent article, and I just want to bring it to our attention just to be mindful that there in a neighboring city, there was some public protest about this type of environment, removing the public forum and going to virtual, and then they as well offered online. Our intent is safety, always a priority, and our district has given opportunity for public comment. And I would encourage the public, with safety always a priority. If there are other solutions that you want the board to consider, please bring them forward, because we do want to hear what everybody has to say in regards to the decisions we have to make.
Yeah, perfect. No, thank you for that. Ms. Underhill, any comment on this line item?
No, and I would agree. I just, encourage people to reach out. Our emails are, published on our website, and we do want to hear from people. So, just make sure that you don't feel like you can't reach out. And we do still have a process to hear public comment at the board meetings, though it's just different than what you see in front of you. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Pingarelli?
No comments.
Okay. Ms. Doan?
No, I don't have any comments. Thank you.
All right. No, thank you. Yeah, agreed with Ms. Ceja Martinez and Ms. Underhill. I mean, there are many channels to be able to express, your thoughts, concerns, etc. With the district. And like Ms. Ceja Martinez stated, this solution was one that we moved to in light of the times that we're in, with safety, health, and wellness top of mind. So but as we've discussed, the district is very good at adapting to change. And if there are better ways, we'd love to hear it. And even our social media channels are a great way to get in touch with the district as well. So thank you for that. Ms. San Martinez, thank you for pushing for discussion on this particular line item. At this point, I just need a motion to suspend this policy temporarily as we get through these current times.
I'll move to suspend policy BEDH as related to the process of public comments through the duration of the COVID-19 crisis.
I'll second.
So we have a motion by Ms. Underhill and a second by Ms. Stone. Ms. Contra, do you want to lead us through the votes?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Sandoval. As I call your name, please let me know your vote and I will mark it electronically in board docs. Mrs. Pingarelli?
Yay.
Mr. Sandoval?
Sorry, yay.
Thank you. Mrs. Doan?
Yay.
Thank you. Mrs. Martinez?
Yay.
Mrs. Underhill?
Yay.
Thank you very much. I have saved the votes. It has passed 5-0.
Perfect. Thank you for that. Okay, moving on to 5.2, request to adjust the governing board regarding matters not included on the agenda. Again, as I stated earlier, we do have 21 items that each one will be read. Those are all tied to 8.2, which is the COVID-19 update. So they will be read right before that line item. So with that said, moving on to agenda item 6, which is the consent agenda. Are there any items that any board member would like to pull from this area?
President Sandoval,
Yes.
may I please request to pull 6.5? Approval of the estoppel certificate regarding the Vistancia Developer Assistance Agreement.
I'll second that. Ms. Stone?
I don't need to vote.
Okay, perfect. Ms. Underhill?
I don't have anything to pull. Thank you.
You're welcome. Ms. Pingarelli?
No, I don't have anything to pull either.
Okay. I don't have any to pull as well or either. So that said, we just need a motion to approve the consent agenda minus 6.5, which is the approval of the estoppel certificate regarding the Vistancia Developer Assistance Agreement.
I move to approve the consent agenda item excluding the Vistancia Developer Assistance Agreement.
I'll second that. So we have a motion by Ms. Sarah Martinez, a second by myself. Ms. Contra, you want to organize the votes?
Yes, sir. Thank you. I have just reworded the motion and pulled that 6.5. So as I call your name, please let me know your vote. Mrs. Pingarelli?
Yay.
Mr. Sandoval?
Yay.
Mrs. Doan?
Yay.
Mrs. Martinez?
Yay.
Thank you. I can see that you've marked it online. This is for the record. And Mrs. Underhill?
Yay.
Thank you. The motion has passed 5-0.
Thank you. Ms. Sarah Martinez?
Thank you, President Sandoval. I appreciate the opportunity, board, as well, to discuss this topic of developer assistance once again. From my understanding, Mr. Moss did have, and I have a deep dive conversation about this information, but I would like the board to take another opportunity and view this like our land deal. We had an opportunity to make amends so that our district and ultimately the impact to our students was in their favor. I reviewed the developer assistance agreement, and it was based on a contract in 2010 by the CFO at the time, Mike Finn, and administration and governing board. Essentially, I would like the board to decline the request for the same amount of developer assistance. And from my understanding, it's $1,000. And Ms. Myers, please correct me if I'm wrong. But that is something that I'm asking because the situation has changed. Some factors to consider are the Fed rates recently cut their interest rates at the beginning of the year from 1.75% to 0.25%. What that means is it's going to be an increase of borrowing money for the general population, and that directly impacts the amount of home mortgages that are going to be available. It correlates with the home trends that are in the city of Peoria that continuously go up. So if we are considering what's in the best interest of our students and trying to build a school or find funding, here's an opportunity to revisit a contract that has come before us, to decline it and have them go back to the drawing board, and we come up with an appropriate value for our students.
Yeah, just
Go
ahead.
Good evening, President Sandoval, Mrs. Sehar Martinez, members of the governing board. This estoppel is part of a sale, a land transaction, where the seller is asking us to attest to the fact that the developer is in accordance with the original agreement. And that original agreement actually was not for a dollar amount per house, but rather for the donation of land for schools to be built. The agreement called for 6 sites in 2 areas, originally Lakeland Village and White Peak Ranch. And Lakeland Village, site number 1 is Vistancia Elementary. Site number 2 was canceled due to less density in housing, and therefore there was no need at the time. Site 3 was in Trilogy and was also canceled. In White Peak Ranch, Site 1, that is now Lake Pleasant Elementary. Site 2 is delayed but still owed to the district, and that's north of the Arizona Project Canal. And Site 3 as well was canceled due to low density. And I'm reading that from a communication from Mike Moss, but I wanted to be clear that with this particular agreement, it was not for per housing payments, but rather the actual donation of parcels of land to build our schools. And that's detailed in the letters attached to the estoppel.
So, Ms. Myers, with that said, this does not impede on our ability to negotiate a higher, developer assistance per house dollar amount with the developer by approving this estoppel?
We do not currently, as I have confirmed with Mr. Moss, have a per house agreement because they made the agreement to donate land. The estoppel and then a subsequent developer's assignment is simply assigning the current arrangement that we have with the developer to the new organization that is buying the property.
I gotcha. Okay, I gotcha. So 2 different conversations. I get it. I will say, I know this is an area that Ms. Sehar Martinez has pushed the district on, and I don't disagree that we add a lot of value to our developers, and I realize that doesn't apply to this estoppel, but I think the point's well taken. But thank you for the explanation. Ms. Stone, any comments on this particular agreement or the estoppel? Sorry.
No, I'm fine with it.
Okay, Ms. Springarelli?
No, I'm good.
Ms. Underhill?
No, I'm good with it too. I do appreciate Ms. Seja Martinez bringing that up because I know that is something that we do, need to and hope to revisit. I just recognize that it's not through this transaction or this particular document. So I'm good. Thank you.
Ms. Seja Martinez, any final comments?
No, thank you. I appreciate that, Ms. Myers, for clarifying that information. Just one follow-up question with the land deal that we amended recently. When with this land deal donation, is there any criteria that we have to build on a certain time frame that we may have to consider in the future?
President Sandoval, Mrs. Seja Martinez, we can certainly look at that agreement and provide that information in a board report. I'll have Mr. Moss help me with that.
So to be clear, it is possible that there's a statement in this contract that says you have to build a school within 10 years or you have to give it back or something like that in this nature?
I'm not saying that that is the case. I would like to look at the agreement with Mr. Moss to confirm if there are any contingencies. I'm not aware that there are, but I'd like to look at that. It's an older agreement, and I don't have a copy with me this evening for a quick reference to answer your question.
Thank you for that. So I appreciate bringing to light that two different conversations. However, with that being said, there's still some experiences that we've had during our term as a board, looking at contingencies in the fine line of contracts. And I'm still going to hold my statement that I would like to table this until we, as a governing board, look at all the fine print, that it's in the best nature of our students.
Yeah, Ms. Myers, if we do table this item pending additional information, how does that impact the process here?
The developer has reached out to the district. They are in the process of closing escrow, so it may materially affect their transaction. If it's the will of the board, pleasure of the board, I can certainly, if it's tabled, reach out to the developer to notify them that the next opportunity for approval would be April 23rd.
Okay, I think I would agree. I think I would like more information in light of some of the situations that we have been in as a district, just to understand where there may be some adverse situations that we might be putting our district in and the students, in the case that there is some language in it that we have to build by a certain time. So thank you for that, Ms. Myers. Ms. Seja Martinez, thank you for your insight here as well. So that said, Ms. Contra, I think
Yep.
this is an item that I would like to definitely table for the next meeting pending more information. I just need to change the motion from approving 7.1 to moving that we table this item until the subsequent board meeting.
Thank you, President Sandoval. Actually, what will happen was we will need to vote whether or not to approve the estoppel certificate. We will cast that vote, and then I'll enter a second motion to table.
Okay. Perfect. So go ahead.
I'm sorry, sir. So the first thing we'll need to do is the first motion, which is to approve it. You can cast your vote as I call your name, and I will open the online voting as well, but we'll quote for the record. So the first motion is to approve the estoppel certificate.
Okay, and then approve and then table, or really not approve it today and table?
Sorry, sir. Motion to approve the estoppel certificate regarding the Vistancia Developer Assistance Agreement. Motion or second. And if there is none, this motion fails.
I'll second it.
Let me be clear that this is to approve the certificate.
Yes,
The second would, so you would like, Mrs. Doan, you would like to motion to approve the certificate?
I would.
Mr. Sandoval, would you like to ask for a second?
Yes. Can I get a second on this motion?
I will second.
So we have a motion to approve 7.1, approval of the estoppel certificate regarding the Wisconsin Developer Assistance Agreement by Ms. Doan, and a second, I believe, by Ms. Pingarelli.
Yes, that is correct. As I call your name, please cast your vote. Mrs. Pingarelli?
Aye.
Mr. Sandoval?
Nay.
Mrs. Doan?
Aye.
Mrs. Ceja Martinez?
Nay.
Mrs. Underhill?
Nay.
This motion will fail. Now we will move to motion number 2, motion to table the approval of estoppel certificate.
Ms. Contra,
Okay.
this is Jason Reynolds.
Yes, sir?
The motion failed, therefore there is no need for a table.
Oh,
We can bring this back at a future time.
thank you, sir. Thank you for clarifying.
Okay, perfect. No, thank you for that, Dr. Reynolds. Motion fails 3 to 2. Okay, moving along to our 8.1, consideration of administrative appointments. Dr. Carter?
Good evening, President Sandoval, members of the board, Ms. Pallas-Thompson. Usually I get to be in front of you all and highlight some of our administrative appointments with your approval, of course. Today we'll do it electronically, and just please note after I read the statement regarding our 2 individuals, note at some point we will bring them in front of you to celebrate their future role in Peoria Unified, as well as those that support them. So hope I'll find you well, and I'll go ahead and read this statement. Our first recommendation is that Ms. Tanya Nevy be appointed to the position of principal of Desert Valley Elementary School for the 2021 school year. Ms. Nevy currently serves as an assistant principal at Lake Pleasant Elementary School. Ms. Nevy has been serving as a certified administrator and a classroom instructor within the district since 2007, with both elementary and high school experience. Mrs. Nevy has a bachelor's degree from Arizona State University and a master's degree in educational leadership, also from ASU. Congratulations to Ms. Tanya Nevy, and please know we are excited for her as she moves into the position of elementary school principal. So that is our recommendation number 1. Our second recommendation tonight is for Ms. Paige Brill to be appointed to the position of principal of Sun Valley Elementary School for the 2021 school year. Mrs. Brill currently serves as the Director of Teaching and Learning, Innovation and Intervention for the Alhambra Elementary School District. Since 2003, Mrs. Brill has served in the roles of teacher, instructional coach, program coordinator, assistant principal, principal, and director, all within Alhambra Elementary. Mrs. Brill has a bachelor's degree from Western Oregon University, a master's degree in educational leadership with an emphasis on English as a second language, and a master's degree in educational leadership from Northern Arizona University. Again, congratulations, Paige. I know we're excited for her as she moves into the position of elementary school principal within the Peoria Unified School District. So, Governing Board, I certainly stand for any questions tonight, and hope that you're able to vote on these recommendations for administrative appointment. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Davidson, for that. Ms. Stone, any comments?
No, I don't have any at this time.
Thank you. Ms. Pingarelli?
I just wanted to say congratulations to both, and to Ms. Brill, welcome to the district.
Perfect, agreed. Ms. Underhill?
Yes, I would just echo that same welcome to the district, or not to the district, but congratulations on your new position and welcome to the district for Mrs. Brill. And it's just so great to have such obviously highly qualified and dedicated people. So thank you for what you're doing and for your taking a leadership position in our district.
Perfect. And Ms. Sayam Martinez?
I believe, if you don't mind, I will motion to approve the recommendations as presented by Dr. Davidson. And then assuming that we pass it and sounds like it, I will add my comments if that's okay.
Sure. No, absolutely. And I agree. Congratulations to both individuals. Looking forward to their leadership and meeting them and just learning more about how they're going to impact lasting change in our students. So we have a motion by Ms. Sayam Martinez to approve the administrative appointments. Can I get a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. So we have a motion by Ms. Sayam Martinez and a second by Ms. Doan. Ms. Contra, if you can let us know our votes.
Thank you, sir. When I call your name, please cast your vote. Mrs. Pingarelli?
Aye.
Mr. Sandoval?
Aye.
Mrs. Doan?
Aye.
Mrs. Sehan Martinez? Mrs. Sehan Martinez?
Aye.
Mrs. Underhill?
Aye.
Thank you. That has passed 5-0.
Perfect. Thank you. Ms. Sayam Martinez, you wanted to make some comments around this line item? You may be muted.
Yes, I was. Thank you, President Sandoval. And I'll start off with Desert Valley. They have a special heart at Desert Valley with the special needs students and the demographics, and the appointment by Tanya. She has the biggest heart that I have come across as a governing board member. Getting to know her, she'll be a fabulous fit, and congratulations to her. As to Ms. Brill at Sun Valley, her expertise will be definitely utilized, and welcome to the Peoria Unified family.
All right, perfect. Thank you for that. Okay, so motion passes 5-0. Moving on to 8.2, which is the COVID-19 school closures update. Dr. Reynolds.
Yes, thank you, President Sandoval, governing board members, Mrs. Pallas Thompson, cabinet, and guests. Tonight, we want to provide you with a brief update on our response to...
Dr. Reynolds, I apologize. I committed to reading the public comment prior to us getting into this presentation. So do you mind pausing for a sec and allowing Ms. Contra to read those items?
I would be happy to.
Perfect. Thank you for that. Ms. Contra?
Thank you, President Sandoval. The first comment that I'll be reading tonight comes from a student by the name of Billy Madison. And the question and comment is, will school be reopened for a week or two before it ends if COVID-19 dies down so we can see our peers and teachers one last time? Since no one in the district has technically had COVID-19, will schools reopen if COVID-19 starts dying down towards the end so that students may be together for a last time before graduation? The second.
Go ahead.
I'm sorry, sir. The second comment comes from Ms. Tara Nagamine Ekavaria, and I do apologize if I did not pronounce the name correctly. First, a huge thank you to PUSD and Park Ridge Elementary for your commitment to our students, parents, faculty, and community. I've sincerely appreciated your open and timely communications and responses throughout this major transition. I've conferred with friends, neighbors, and other parents, including some of our PTSO, and have the following recommendations for the current distance learning plan in priority order. Number 1 being technology. Please fix the quality of the Flipgrid videos. The audio and video usually don't match up. The picture sometimes pixelate, blocking half the screen. For young viewers, such as my first grader, it's difficult to watch their teacher look weird, which causes disengagement. Number 2, parent engagement and support. Many parents are also working full-time jobs. We could use some help getting our homeschools organized. Provide all coursework for the next week before the prior weekend, allowing parents to organize over the weekend. Include a student organizer page for each day. Even better, make it available in iReady and include links so they can launch their day without much parent support. Teachers host a parent engagement video and web share to get parents prepared for the week. C, parent support group. Host a Facebook group or other community tool where parents can share ideas. D, consider parents with students in multiple grades and what can be done to ease their transition into distance learning. Number 3, student engagement and support. Most parents are observing below 40% class engagement. Assumption is that participation will go down, not up. One concern is that if there aren't enough students and teachers may disengage. Teachers should reach out to students individually using one-on-one flip grids or phone calls. A couple of teachers have done this, and it has made a big difference in student interest in distance learning. Reach out to the students that are not participating again. One big concern is that even broader range of skills going into next year and underperformers may drag the grade down. Some parents suggested new testing to ensure students are ready for 3rd grade. 4, online learning. Other districts like Deer Valley and Scottsdale are using tools like Zoom and Google Classroom to engage students daily in interactive sessions. While this sounds appealing, most parents I spoke to preferred something a little less structured. One concern was that not all kids are going to be behind the next year, creating a bigger gap. Ideas: A, strong interest in a once-a-week interactive online session with their teacher and classmates. Main agenda would be setting out the plan for the week, similar to the parent orientation mentioned above. Main objective is student engagement. Offer a few different times in case all students can't make it at the same time. Use Sign Up Genius or similar for scheduling. B, optional alternate sessions throughout the rest of the week. Open session up to kids in same grade for other classrooms so that more dates and times are available to busy parents. C, offer specials online as well, art, music. 5, consistency. The planning and execution appears to be different between teachers of the same grade level, across grade levels, and between schools. Certain grades like kindergarten are perceived more effective than others. Distance learning gives the unique opportunity for one teacher to serve a larger number of students. That said, each teacher has a unique relationship with their students that should not be treated lightly. Consider where efficiencies can be gained by sharing the load across teachers and enabling more consistency. Parents are interested in the oversight functions performed by school leadership to monitor and control the learning content, as well as the flexibility allowed to change strategies for delivering approved learning plans from a distance. Thank you for your consideration of the above feedback.
Ms. Contra, thank you for that. And I just, one of the things that I wasn't clear on at the beginning, I want to make sure that we're following the 3-minute timeline as well, right? So I believe someone is timing that for you. So that said, district leadership, and Mr. Madison as well, who his comment was read first, if we can make sure that we get back to these individuals and take a look at the recommendations that were just read, and get back to both of these individuals in and around their thoughts, their recommendations, which I certainly appreciate. Just again, just responding to them in a timely fashion would be great. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you, President Sandoval. Respondent number 4 was Mr. Jeff Pettit. I want to express my opinion that I believe graduation should continue to be a live and in-person event. It may need to be postponed or a number of people limited. I just really hope the board will not decide to do a virtual event. Students have worked very hard and I believe they deserve this special moment. Next.
And I believe Dr. Reynolds, you'll have some updates there in your presentation. So thank you for that.
Miss Emily Pettit, I would like you to please consider having an in-person graduation if that means postponing it. I am a senior at Liberty High School and have lost prom, the spring musical I was doing, senior trip, and just the chance to say goodbye. Graduation would give me the chance to see my classmates one last time. I have looked forward to these milestones my whole life, and it would be devastating to not have any of them. Please make graduation happen if at all possible. Next comment is from Caitlin Fain. Graduation should be postponed by a few weeks and limit the amount of people at graduation. Have the ceremony live streamed as well. Next comment from Sion Visa. We need a graduation. Isabel J. Graduation should happen even if it is pushed back to July or the beginning of August. Maybe in order for it to happen, hosted on the football field, auditorium, or gym with only immediate family members allowed to attend. Miss Dana Allen, please give seniors their graduation. They have waited 12 years for this. Miss Michaela Klein, given our current circumstances, it's likely graduation will not occur when it was originally scheduled. With that being said, having graduation postponed is the best option. Many seniors, like myself, are going out of state and want one last moment with their class. And although we do still have college graduation to look forward to, not everyone goes to college, so this would be their only graduation in life. Furthermore, taking this away from us, especially those who finished in the top of their class and worked extremely hard for 4 grueling years, would be tragic. Thank you. Ms. Tracy Welch, there is no need to make a rash decision today to cancel graduations that are 40 to 43 days out. I would hope the district would have the common sense to wait until mid-May to confirm the status of graduation. It would be in the interest of the students to give them the best opportunity to have their commencement as scheduled. One possibility would be limiting the amount of guests to immediate family members or 4 guests per student to lower the amount of people at the graduation. As of today, April 9th, 2020, in Maricopa County, there are 1,687 positive COVID-19 cases and 39 deaths. The population of Maricopa County is 3.817 million, making this pandemic a mere 0.00102% of people dying from the virus. It's time to get practical, and while I don't diminish any of the deaths from the virus, people die from a wide variety of things every day. We need to show these kids we will not let this define their senior year and give them the graduation they deserve. Ms. Kristen Simfukum, I apologize for the pronunciation. I hope you will try your best to make graduation a possibility for us seniors. We have worked so hard for this moment and we don't want to see it gone too fast. Ms. Stacy Pettit, I'm asking you to please postpone graduation even to August if needed instead of doing a virtual online one. For some seniors, this will be their only graduation if they don't attend college. They have all worked so hard and have given up so much already. The consideration could be having it on the football fields at the high school at a later date. Thank you. Miss Alicia Garcia, postpone to a later date. That way students can still walk. Miss Linda Pewitt, I know this is a trying time, but I ask you to consider having an actual graduation ceremony. The senior class of 2020 has worked hard and has already given up many memory-making events this year. 4 years ago, I attended Liberty High School graduation, and my granddaughter made a promise to herself that she wanted to be on the first row at her graduation as her brother had. She has worked very hard to make that dream happen. Thank you. Miss Jill Schweiner. We would love to see an actual graduation ceremony for our son and his classmates, even if it has to be this summer. We are willing to help out with whatever is needed. Thanks for paying attention to this for our 2020 graduates. Miss Connie Pellerin, I would like to see the graduation ceremony be rescheduled if needed, if the quarantine is still in place when the original date is set. Miss Jennifer Cravens, I know we are in uncertain times, but senior students need answers sooner than later. Every effort needs to be made and exhausted to ensure our seniors can end the school year with the graduation. Thank you. Miss Lisa Copley, please, I would really love for the board to consider having the ceremony when it is safe to do so. Please do not cancel it altogether. It is a huge milestone in their lives, and every senior deserves the feeling of hearing their name called and walking across that stage. Please vote to postpone and not cancel. Thank you for your consideration during this trying time. We do appreciate you all. Ms. Shannon Ramirez, please, please, please allow the graduation ceremony to take place as it traditionally does. If it has to be postponed, so be it, but that would be much better than completely canceling it. My daughter is a straight A honors AP student and has worked hard for this moment, milestone, and celebration for her entire school year. It is bad enough that these kids are missing out on all fun activities that are wrapped up at the end of senior year, like prom, senior awards, ceremonies, spirit week, pep assemblies, yearbook signing, and senior breakfast. I don't think it's right or fair to take graduation away from her or the rest of the class of 2022. While I understand the need to keep the community healthy and safe, allowing it to happen at a later date, if necessary, would be in the best interest of these young adults and their families. Thank you for your consideration. And I believe this is the last. I apologize, I have two more. Mr. Robert Ramirez, hello, and thank you in advance for your consideration. My daughter is a high school senior this year and has been a straight A student her entire life. I'm writing to request that the school board strongly consider not canceling the graduation ceremony. While I can certainly understand the possibility of the need to postpone the ceremony for public health concerns, I would kindly request that it be postponed rather than canceled. High school graduation is such a positive milestone in young people's lives, and I don't feel it's right to cancel it outright. If it is not possible to hold the ceremony on the regularly scheduled date, please consider postponing it to a later date so that these wonderful kids can experience this for themselves. Thank you very much. And the final public comment is from Miss Michelle McCarthy. It would be really nice to see something done for recognition for the class of 2020, even at a later date. I know that there is a lot of unknowns and up in the air, but something rather than nothing. And that concludes all of the public comment that we received this evening.
Thank you, Ms. Contra, for reading each and every one of those. It is important to listen to all of our stakeholders, especially our kids, that go through our halls. Clearly the common theme is in and around graduation, which no doubt is one of the major milestones in the lives of our youth and their families. That said, Ms. Pallas-Thompson, Superintendent Pallas-Thompson, I apologize. Can you please make sure that each and every one of these individuals receives a response via whatever communication channel contact information that they left us?
We certainly can, Mr. Sandoval.
Thank you for that. Dr. Reynolds, you're up, but before you get started, I just kind of want to ground this conversation in a way that, well, here's my ask. Governing board members, if we can pause our comments until the end of the presentation, in light of this virtual meeting, I think it will streamline this process a little bit. Is everybody okay with that?
Yes.
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
Yeah. Thank you for that. Dr. Reynolds?
Yes, thank you, President Sandoval. Again, Governing Board, Mrs. Pallas-Thompson, Cabinet, and guests. Yes, we will be addressing graduation in just a few minutes. to preview that. Tonight, we want to provide you with a brief update on our response to school closures due to COVID-19. For the past month, we have been working closely with teachers and staff, students and parents, as well as community partners to transition from our traditional format for teaching and learning to an online model and continue to provide a level of service that our district stakeholders have come to expect, as well as deal with many of the events that happen in the spring, like graduation. I want to first thank our entire team for their hard work and dedication to the children of Peoria schools. The hours that they have put in are simply remarkable. We have teachers, food service workers, secretaries, nurses, administrators, bus drivers, instructional aides, and many, many more who have come together, who have united and asked the question, how can I help? How can I serve our community? What is it that I can do for our community? The overwhelming level of support for our families has been inspirational for me, and it really should be highlighted as a cornerstone to the foundation of our district. This presentation that I'm going to be providing for you tonight highlights many of the projects that we have completed, but it certainly doesn't represent everything that we have accomplished. We would be here all night if we attempted to do that. Let me start by saying that Mrs. Palos Thompson was one of the first superintendents in the metropolitan area to call for a COVID-19 task force. That task force was made up of representatives from district and school leadership, and we began addressing the areas of significant need and prioritizing other areas. And so that team came together and really put together a solid plan to begin addressing the needs of our community. So let me start with, before we get to the slides, that we are exploring all options on how to engage our students when it comes to their learning, when it comes to relationships, and we are open to all ideas on how we can continue to do that in an effective and efficient way. So we really appreciate a lot of the feedback and comments that we have received, as well as graduation. A lot of those comments had to do with not canceling graduation, but postponing graduation, and that's what we've done. We have postponed graduation. We do not believe, along with our partner districts who share the State Farm Stadium as a venue for graduation, we have been working closely with them, and we all agree that our May date is probably not feasible. We are currently working as a team to secure a date at the end of June and beginning of July, and State Farm Stadium has been very willing to work with us in that time frame. So we are considering that. If that is not an option, I mean, obviously we are working with our governor and our state health officials to determine when it will be safe for large groups of people to come together. If that date passes, our principals are committed to finding ways to host graduation. We've talked about virtually. A lot of people are working on what that might look like face-to-face, and we are talking about dates after that. So that is one of our highest priorities, but we do ask for our community's patience. We're working with our, as Mrs. Palos Thompson talked about earlier, we were working with our group of senior student advisors who are helping guide us in that process as well. So let me get to our slides and back to our task force and as they began to prioritize some of the needs that were out there. Our first priority that the task force established was meeting the basic needs of our families and staff. And one of those areas is providing is providing breakfast and lunch. Our food service department began serving meals on March 23rd at 30 of our sites. And we both provided pickup locations and delivery options by partnering with our transportation department to make over 60 runs throughout the day. As you can see, our food service department has made available over 100,000 meals to our community over these past weeks. We are incredibly proud of them and their commitment to our community and making sure that our children are fed. We move to the next slide. We have also provided a support hotline where students and others can call in for support. This hotline is staffed by our social and emotional learning support team, and they have received, as of a couple of days ago, approximately 160 calls, offering all things all over the board, like tech support, strategies on how to learn from home, where to get basic supplies and necessities, as well as specific questions about how do I get a refund for the field trip that I was supposed to take. And so we really appreciate that team and all that are calling in and getting those questions answered. Although we do have our team and several people, a lot of people using that hotline, we do know that many of our families are actually calling the schools directly, and we appreciate all the school support staff who are there to answer those questions. And again, we really appreciate their hard work and commitment to their schools. We've already talked about food service, so let's move on to our operations, where transportation and facilities fall underneath. Our buses have been disinfected, we've been cleaned. We have also closed all of our elementary schools as of last Friday and all of our high schools as of this Friday to staff coming in and out of rooms and buildings. That is so that our partners in the our custodial partnership have the time to get in and really do some disinfection, some deep cleaning to make sure that our facilities are safe for our return whenever that will be. Our front offices will remain open to staff through the closures so that we can continue to support our community. Moving on to technology, this team, as well as many others, are really a shining star in this crisis. We have distributed approximately 5,700 laptops to families across the district in an attempt to aid them and aid the students in their learning. If you look at the slide, you can see that we're also providing technology, laptops, as well as other associated technology for our staff who are working at home. Our teachers and staff are participating in many opportunities for technology training and support. We have answered hundreds of calls and emails at our technology help desk, and this department continues to provide huge supports for both our employees and our students and families. Distributing these laptops was a huge undertaking, and we really appreciate all the effort that went into that. Of course, on our next slide, the biggest undertaking that we have accepted is providing students with the continued opportunities to engage in their learning. Teachers are using a variety of resources to provide learning activities for their students. We heard earlier in some of the comments some suggestions for more. We're utilizing many of those options, and we are working to train teachers on new options to be able to reach out to students. We've had teachers and staff who have reached out, made an effort or made contact with every family in the district to see not only what their learning needs are, but what are some of their needs at home and how we can help. And we are gearing up to reach out again to each of our families and see how things are going, how we can improve, and again, what their continued needs are. We are currently working to collect data on how many students are able or are choosing to interact with these learning opportunities that our teachers are providing, teachers both from our core areas as well as our electives. We are working to, we have heard from our community that one of the challenges that our families are facing is some are, you know, if both parents are working throughout the day, they're struggling to provide structure. We also have heard from families that in some areas we're providing too much structure. We really are trying to find a way to meet the needs of each family. It's a daunting task, but we're reaching out and we're working really hard. We want to make sure that we do provide the flexibility to meet each of our families' needs. And as I mentioned earlier, our seniors are our highest priority. We are committed to working with them to ensure that they do all that they need to do to receive their diploma. And again, we have postponed our May graduation, but we are working with student leadership, principals, and other districts to find some good opportunities. We recognize how, and it weighs on us every single day. We are committed to finding a way to celebrate with the hard work of our senior class. We're also focused on helping our high school students meet the requirements for dual enrollment and CTE certifications, as well as prepare AP students and potentially IB students for upcoming exams. As we move on to, and again, as you can imagine, this is a huge task to meet those needs of over 37,000 students. But our teams are working every single day and into the night. We are very fast making that happen. As we move into business services,
Dr. Reynolds, I think we lost you.
are you still there?
Yep, got you now.
Okay, so as we move to business services, you can see that our business services department has really been focused on meeting the expectations that the governing board set in the resolution that you passed at our previous board meeting, as well as the expectations from our legislature and our governor in HB 2910. They are working hard to make sure that we're able to support the payment of our teachers and staff. They are working with our families to provide refunds for some of those canceled events. And then, of course, we also have some federal government requirements that are coming down through some of that legislation, and our team is hard at work to interpret those and meet those requirements. And then we also have our human resources department, who have been working every single day, communicating with our site leadership as we navigate this new normal for us. And what that looks like is some of our staff works from home, and some of our teaching is taking place from in a remote manner. We have created tracking documents to be able to, for our employees, to show the work that we're doing and be able to celebrate that work, as well as provide frequently asked questions for our employees. Our benefits department is working hard to navigate some of the new look of FMLA and some of the impact that's having, some of the laws are having on our employees. And lastly, of course, communication is absolutely key. And Mrs. Pallas-Thompson challenged us from the very beginning to ensure that we were communicating frequently and accurately with our community, both parents, students, and our employees. And we understand that is the foundation for the key to our success. We have worked really hard to ensure that our families and employees have the information they need to be successful. And you can see the amount of support that our communications department has provided our community. When you see that we've had over 100,000 hits on our coronavirus website, when some of the strategies that we provide in our learning at home, we've had over 20,000 hits, as well as the student website, which is reached the most, which is well over 150,000 hits. We have provided 18 communication updates to our employees. We have responded to over 400 customer service requests, and our team is doing an incredible job to try to meet those needs of each and every one who reaches out to us, as well as our social media work. We know, well, as you can see, the entire district has been hard at work for our families and our community. We know how hard this pandemic has been and will continue to be for our families and our employees, and we're working every day with our students, parents, and employees at the center of the work that we do. We are incredibly proud of the work we have done, but we know that there is hard work left for us to do, and we are committed to continue to meet those challenges and face any new situations that come our way and do what is right for our community. Again, I want to thank our entire team. I want to thank the governing board for our support. I want to thank Mrs. Pallas Thompson for her leadership. And our team is available tonight to answer any.
Perfect. Thank you, Dr. Reynolds, for that. To open it up for comment, questions. Ms. Stone?
Wow. That was really an amazing presentation, Dr. Reynolds. I like to see all this, evidence, if you will, of the fact that the hard work is being appreciated and that the help is getting out there. It's just amazing to me how the team has stepped in and done a lot of just unbelievable work. I appreciate all you guys, and thank you so much, everybody. That's a lot of people doing this work, and that's a lot of hard work. And I know people have had to step into situations that they're not used to. It's not normal for them necessarily, and do new things. And I think that as a community and as a district, we are learning to pull together and do things in new and different ways. And I just want to say, a big thanks to everybody that was involved in this. And, to our students to not be discouraged. This is, it's not something that's going to be instantaneous. It's going to take work on all our parts. And I appreciate their willingness to stick in there and do the work and, get their education. It's a big thing. And I'm glad that we have postponed the graduation instead of canceling. And I know how heartbroken our seniors would be if they missed their graduation. And I'm just hoping that everything comes together for that. And I know that our parents and students will be very, very glad to understand that that has happened. So thanks for this presentation and the information, and thanks to all for all the hard work.
Thank you, Ms. Stone. Well said. Ms. Pingrelli?
Well, I just wanted to also say thank you to everybody and to all their hard work. Looking at 101,000+ meals is amazing. And I also am happy that we're looking at postponing the graduation versus canceling it. I know this is would be devastating for a lot of our students. And then just one final thing is that the students, all of us, we are part of history. This is a time that will be looked back on, and it's really great that everybody has been stepping up. So I appreciate everybody. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Pingarelli. Ms. Underhill?
Yes, well, first, I just want to say to our leadership team, I mean, you guys have just been above and beyond, and just challenge upon challenge, you've met it and you've reacted, and that, trickles down. So a huge thank you to all of you, and so many leaders in every different department. As far as the food service, I just can't say enough about the importance of this service. I know that many nonprofits in the community are struggling with food pantries, or, their permanent supportive housing or whatever they're providing, because the food banks are running out of food because of the supply, chain. And I know that will be coming, getting fixed here shortly, but the ability of our district to provide so many meals to families is really helping, I think, families to balance out, their budget so that they can still count on that and then, make ends meet on the other thing. So I think that's a really huge thing, and I just really appreciate that. Also, our teachers, I mean, your ability to basically turn our model online in a very few short days has just been amazing. So you've not only been, continuing to teach the children, but you're teaching the parents all the while you're trying to teach your own ones at home and also learning online yourself. So just keep on keeping on. Greatly appreciate your dedication, and also your, the balance that you have in ensuring that we're providing social emotional support to our families and our students at the same time. So good for you guys. Obviously, our operations, our business department, our human resources, you guys just keep us turning all the time. And as usual, you've kept it up, and your dedication is greatly appreciated. And especially those of you that, are considered, well, you're all essential to us, but very essential. I know that you're, taking risks on your own, and so appreciate that as well. Also, as a mother of a senior, parents, I completely understand where you're at. I mean, we had, rented the chairs and the tables, and the family had made plans to come to town and all those things, looking forward to that milestone as well. And I have to say that I think what we really need is we need your ideas. I'm so glad the students are engaged. So, students and parents, this will be a memorable graduation in its own right, but let's find ways, those tiny celebrations that we can all do together within our various communities. I don't know if it's, signs in the yard or prom on the porch, those kinds of things, but I have great faith in our district that we'll find a way, and to make sure that we have some sort of a, graduation ceremony for each of our seniors. And then finally, I just want to say that this whole experience has really shown me that, our schools truly are the hub in our community. We're a hub for basic needs, for emotional support for parents and children, for learning, for connecting. And it's awesome to see that our students recognize it, that our parents recognize it, and that our community in general recognizes it. So I just want to say, as we move forward and we're doing things differently, and as our community, becomes healthier and things move on, let's don't forget that. Let's always remember that, our schools have our back, and make sure that we have theirs. So thank you, everybody, so much.
Thank you, Ms. Underhill, for that. Ms. Sayar Martinez?
Thank you very much. And then I will transition right where Ms. Underhill left off about the ideas. Thank you, parents. It is definitely a family Peoria unified effort at its finest. And it may sound like we're giving a lot of cheers because they're well deserved. I'm just going to echo Ms. Myers and Dr. Davidson and your team, the fact that you have to, in such a short amount of time, translate the CARES Act and the law is a tremendous feat that you have to overcome, because that impacts everything we touch. While doing so, Dr. Davidson, you and your team are hiring so that we can be put in a position where we take off running for the next year. So you're forward thinking. And so I acknowledge that and appreciate that. Maintenance, Christique and your team. I drove around school the first couple weeks, a week and a half, and you can notice at some of the campuses, the grass was growing. But then last week you drive around the community and your team is at work, and we notice and appreciate to keep that sense of belonging and pride in our communities is so important, because our schools are the hub of our communities. Our food service adding tremendous value to our community as well, because they not only serve our students and our staff, but they serve those who have the need to get food. And we do open those arms and with welcome arms to serve them so that they have their basic necessities. So thank you. And for our curriculum and development team and teachers, yes, we've heard some opportunities, but let's not ignore the huge fact that this is a 130-plus-year-old system of traditional learning, and we literally overturned that in a week. That is something every parent, neighbor, teacher needs to take a moment and observe, because that is something nobody would have ever fathomed in their lifetime. And to be on a governing board and experiencing that, I will definitely hang that as a badge of honor. Like any situation, it is so important that we continue to celebrate, but take the opportunity to look at those growth moments. We've talked a lot about the things that we want to continue. We also need to have a heart-to-heart of what we need to consider. In the comments, and I am a parent of a special needs student and a fifth grader, it is so hard for me to get them up in the morning and getting to bed on time, because they have that mindset of what time we should start school. I will bring this back to a fellow board member who said, what time should we start school? This is a great opportunity that when we transition back to the new school year, or what school looks like for the Peoria Unified School District, that we really capitalize on this crisis to maybe consider changing the start time for our students. And while we are in the position that we are in, I'm going to continue to push for that. Let's reconsider our start time. Also, with that mindset of transitioning back, when that time does come, that we do not go back to business as usual. We have learned our students will persevere. They will learn. Let's stretch them in this new environment, and let's train our teachers and support them for trying out this new environment. So that's my ask when we go back. What is our transition plan? And I would like to see not a business as usual. The other something I want to highlight is I see the emails on the internal live teams Q&A where our staff has opportunity to platform. I would like to challenge our PR team and our training team to push that out to those webinars. At the beginning, we heard those comments. Where's the training for our parents to help our students with teams? Where's the training on some of these insights? Maybe they could be recorded. Let's keep pushing the envelope of what topics matter to our parents or community that relate to PUSD that we can help with. So I will end with that is, as we continue to celebrate, also challenge yourself. What is not working? How are we measuring it? And let's be different.
Thank you for that, Ms. Sayre Martinez. Well said. And thank you, fellow board members, for all your comments. I certainly agree with each and every one of them. We've said it before, and it's been said, it takes a village, and it's just been so inspiring to see how our village here in PUSD has come together to ensure the success of all of our students, again, from our teachers, our staff, food service, all district leadership, our site administrators, we talked about our maintenance, our crossing guards, and certainly our social emotional teams and curriculum. We've gotten out of, our silos and really understood, how working together just makes us more impactful. And it's just been really great to see, without question. One thing I do want to state is, as I was on the run yesterday, the bus driver stated that she sees her bus as a classroom on wheels, and and for me, as we were driving around, they even got notes of thank you, from the students. I think right now, not only is it a classroom on wheels, but it's certainly hope on wheels as well. And making sure that our students, their families understand that we are here for them. And a real just quick comment around leadership. I mean, it's, you take a look at leadership and how it's defined. It's not about being in charge, right? It's about supporting those in your charge. And again, district leadership, site leadership, how you have continued to lead, with that mindset of others in mind, and our teachers the same, as they fully understand, how they inspire hope in all of our youth. It's everyone has not wavered from that. So thank you for that. I do have a quick comment though, knowing that our online schooling, I think, and please correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe it starts at 11 a.m. At the elementary level. And if that's the case, knowing that our food services, you really began around 10:30, even, from both a delivery standpoint and on site. Knowing that meal, is another component to how we ensure the success of our students. How should we look at adapting those times, whether it be a half hour earlier, to ensure that they get that meal before they start their online classroom? So just something to think about, and something to discuss internally to see if that makes sense. But I guess my ultimate goal is really ensuring that our students are fed and have a meal and are ready to learn, even in this virtual environment. So that said, thank you.
President Sandoval, can I just make a comment here on a couple things?
Sure, absolutely.
I just have one question, if you could just slide it in there. Did we have any reports of cases of COVID-19 in the Peoria School District? That's it.
Anyone?
I believe we have cases of people being tested. I can't confirm whether they are not, and I know someone else might want, and I don't know if we should be just guessing, but I know several of our people have been tested.
Thank you.
Okay. I just wanted to, comment on two things. First of all, Dr. Reynolds, you did an amazing job, as always. Board, I need you to know that of all the decisions that I think you've made over the last 3 years that I have been superintendent, the one that is going to be the best decision, you will find out, is your hiring of Dr. Reynolds as our new superintendent when I retire. He is amazing. He gets it done, and he's been a partner. He's been a partner. So, I just need to say that. However, Dr. Reynolds, you left out the fact that there is a third task force that I have labeled, not on my watch, the final frontier, and that has to do with our plans for the future. How to your point, Mrs. Sayas Martinez, we need to come back from this, not only good, but great, and the ability to learn from all of the things that have happened and continue to make a difference. How do we put Humpty Dumpty back together? We don't need to. We can do it in a way that I think is going to be positive. And there's many things. This task force has just started last week, and it's going to be addressing student learning, our 4 strategic areas. How are our children coming back and feeling secure and happy? How do we make sure our parents, our community is on board with what we're doing and how we're moving forward? How do we move our first grade kids into the second grade class, if that's what we're doing? What are some of the things? We have challenged our team, our task force, to be able to start addressing those problems. We don't like to not strategically plan in the district. Mr. Gay wouldn't allow that to happen. And so we are in a position to be proactive, as we have been when we put together this other task forces, to make sure that we are being proactive in doing things. So again, I want to just thank you for everything that you've done just to make everything possible. And certainly your hiring of Dr. Reynolds is going to be key to how we move on.
Yeah, Ms. Superintendent Powell Thompson, thank you for that, and thank you, right? You know, when you take a look at what you and Dr. Reynolds and team have done and how you've leveraged each other's qualities to come together and impact lasting change across the district is just unparalleled. So thank you for that. Thank you for your leadership, and just thank you for your compassion and just mindfulness of you know, the dynamics of what we do here in PUSD, but more importantly in the public school system, and staying true to the every student, every day mantra that we have. I do have one just quick question, and really more of a comment that I'd like you to discuss, you know, in your meetings, is as we enter summer, and also as we enter, you know, when you take a look at the numbers, right, they're continuing to climb a little bit, right, as far as the number of cases that we're realizing here in our state. I definitely want to, and how that impact is going to be on, you know, how unemployment is being impacted, right? So, you know, well, we realize that, you know, rent and mortgages, you know, while they're not being forgiven, they're being kind of pushed towards the end, right? And then it's almost as if, you know, some of these individuals who may live paycheck to paycheck are now going to have a balloon payment, right? That they'll have to come up with. I guess my point is this: let's have that in our head and understand that homelessness, you know, may increase, you know, a little bit for a short amount of time as we enter into the summer months or even the next school year. So I just want to be mindful of that and ensure that, you know, beyond the end of May, as we look at June and July and those summer months, that these resources that we are providing to our students and their families, that we figure out a way to continue to support them during those times.
Thank you, Mr. Sandoval. We will certainly include that in the considerations of our new task force. And it's been a privilege to serve.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate that. Dr. Reynolds, thank you, sir. You know, great presentation, and thank you for taking us through this.
Thank you.
Okay, we're on to our next line item, which is, hang tight, I don't have it in front of me. It is 8.3, which is the fiscal year 2021 budget process update, which I'm going to assume that is Ms. Myers.
Good evening, President Sandoval, members of the Governing Board, and Mrs. Pallas Thompson. This evening, I will present an update related to the fiscal year 2021 process for our budget and associated budget team meetings and recommendations to date. Tonight, I will also provide information on the recently passed State of Arizona base support level budget, projected fiscal year 2021 new revenues and expenses, classroom site fund options, and special considerations in light of the COVID-19 pandemic. For several years, employee stakeholders have provided input to the budget process through an employee member-led budget team. This year, the budget team began meeting in January, as I've previously shared, and we last met virtually on April 2nd. This year's team consists of 32 members with 15 certified representatives, 10 classified, and 7 administrators. 2 of the classified and 1 administrative team member were non-voting participants this year. Budget team considerations were prioritized based on governing board and administrative priorities within the constraints of new state funding levels, and new revenue and fixed and variable expenses have been discussed with the budget team. Benefits renewal and retention stipends have previously been brought forward for prior governing board approval, as well as periodic budget team progress updates have also been provided over the last few months. This year's budget team also worked with the goal to provide the governing board 2 meetings to consider budget team recommendations. As I have shared before, annual budget considerations are a combination of internal and external fixed and variable factors. In addition to district priorities, variables include student enrollment, state funding levels, state retirement system contribution rates, work calendars, minimum wage requirements, contractor costs, planned capital expenditures, and the continuation of the district's 13% maintenance and operations override. This year, COVID-19 has also become a variable factor. The legislature and governor recently approved a fiscal year 2021 basic operating budget that ensures continuity of operations after July 1st if the legislature cannot reconvene to finalize the normal budget process. The baseline, or also known as a skinny budget, continues to include inflation funding and year 3 of the teacher 20% by 2020 pay increase, as well as level funding amounts for results-based funding, college credit by exam, and school safety. Unfortunately, the budget does reduce the accelerated district additional assistance by 50%, which reduces the statewide capital restoration by $64 million. Peoria Unified's portion of the reduction is estimated to be $2.8 million. I will speak more about the state of Arizona's budget later in the presentation and concerns related to COVID-19. In the recently passed state budget, projected fiscal year 2021 revenues for new fixed and variable costs include a 1.74% inflation funding increase, plus the 5% teacher 20% by 2020 funding and associated M&O override increase. Revenue projections also include fiscal year 2020 ADM enrollment growth of $2.5 million continuing. This dollar amount is denoted in red text on the slide. Another notable aspect of the fiscal year 2021 state revenue is that approximately 29% of year 3 of the 20% by 2020 teacher increase will be funded through Classroom Site Fund instead of M&O. This is a one-time state of Arizona funding change. The ongoing amount will go back to M&O in fiscal year 2022. The district is recommending using $1.6 million of the projected fiscal year 2021 maintenance and operations carry forward, again denoted in red text on the slide, to fund this 29% funding difference. In lieu of the one-time classroom site fund amount, we would use M&O to fully fund the 5% compensation increase. And the reason for that, it would ensure that future raises for teachers would be calculated off of their base salary that would include that raise. These varying revenue components equal $13.2 million of available M&O funding for fixed and variable expenses, including compensation increases. Also included in the slide, there are $12.3 million of new fixed and variable costs, which I will comment on later in the presentation, and this includes $9.5 million of proposed compensation increases and staffing position changes. Capital funding is being projected to be $14.7 million in fiscal year 2021 based on the new base support level budget, with the majority of the new funding being earmarked for facilities, construction, and technology needs because the district is in the final phase of the 2012 bond program, with approximately $15 million of bond sale proceeds remaining for district bond projects. The fiscal year 2021 budget process also includes the continuation of the district staffing model and revenue projections, assuming the continuation of current year enrollment levels into fiscal year 2021. As I've previously shared, our funding is based on average daily membership, which is calculated based on enrollment levels each year. Fixed costs were reviewed with the budget team, including the previously governing board approved 2.5% benefits cost increase for fiscal year 2021, totaling $619,000 that will be absorbed from maintenance and operations funds. A $178,000 state retirement system employer contribution increase was also calculated, as well as incremental increases for ongoing expenses, including an increase for custodial services that is estimated to be $302,000. A budget team specific recommendation for next year is for the optional teacher workday to continue in fiscal 2021 and to become a permanent additional day in fiscal year 2022 with a cost of $552,000. An additional SPED allocation for community preschool and the continued district payment of the CTE WestMec teacher 20% by 2020 raises from M&O were also reviewed, as well as an opportunity to increase the minimum teacher salary to $40,114, which I will speak to in more detail later in the presentation. Retention stipends totaling $1.6 million were also recommended again for eligible certified and classified staff who returned to the district in fiscal year 2021, which was also previously approved by the governing board. The stipends will not be paid out of M&O funds. Twelve compensation scenarios were reviewed and discussed with the budget team, including associated costs and percentage increases. Not all scenarios were viable as they exceeded available new revenue projections. All scenarios included ongoing funding from the 13% maintenance and operations override, which will need to be renewed by the community prior to June 30th, 2021, or this funding will begin to phase out in fiscal year 22 and will begin to actually come out of our maintenance and operations budget. For the 12 scenarios, a 5% compensation increase for all employee groups was approved by 96% of the budget team members who voted on April 2nd, with the recommendation to bring forward this option for governing board consideration. The Classroom Site Fund, also known as Prop 301, was established in 2002 to account for the portion of the state sales tax collections and state trust land income provided to school districts as an additional source of funding for teacher salary increases. Classroom Site Fund expenditures are accounted for in three funds for base pay and performance pay for certified staff. Each year, the budget team provides input on the base pay percentage increase for certified teachers. The budget team supports a 10% increase to this portion of the funding for fiscal year 2021 with the assumption that the funding levels will be similar to fiscal year 2020. An increase to Classroom Site Fund or to the Site Fund portion of teacher salary is smaller compared to let me start that again. An increase to the Classroom Site Fund portion of a teacher's salary is a smaller component of the actual combined funding sources. For example, a 10% increase to Classroom Site Fund and a 5% annual raise does not equal 15%. Rather, it is an effective rate of 5.39% using an average elementary and high school teacher's salary as an example, and that is presented on this slide showing how it's calculated. Next slide, please. The budget team also considered a $200 increase to performance pay for eligible certified staff with a respective cost increase of just over $540,000 and $61,000 to Classroom Site Fund and M&O respectively. Again, available funding for the increase would be dependent on Classroom Site Fund levels remaining consistent with fiscal year 2020 levels. Administrators in the district have also been eligible for performance pay from the Maintenance and Operations Fund for many years. The budget team did not make any recommendations to change the administrative performance pay amount in fiscal year 2021. The budget team also reviewed, if we move to the next slide, please, the current certified teacher salary schedule and the impact of the 20% by 2020 compensation increases and Classroom Site Fund increases over the last 2 years that in essence effectively modified the schedule to have higher compensation bands for teachers who have been with the district for at least 2 years. However, even with this movement, there are still 340 certified teachers who are below $40,000 a year in salary, in part due to when they were hired and if they received the 20% by 2020 pay increases. The effective salary schedule movement is represented in this proposed certified teacher salary schedule that was reviewed by the budget team. If the 10% classroom site fund increase is approved and implemented in conjunction with the 5% final increase for the 20% by 2020 teacher funding, it would cost $556,510 to bring the remaining 203 teachers up to a minimum salary of $40,114 and to essentially implement this proposed new salary schedule that still has a 1.5% compensation differential between the salary bands. As previously mentioned, the district's historical staffing model is continuing into fiscal year 2021. Administration has reviewed elementary needs to date and is finalizing the high school staffing changes at this time. Administration has also reviewed department position and stipend requests. A main area of focus has been transportation, where the district has faced challenges attracting and retaining staff from a compensation perspective. The staffing modifications in transportation would be partially offset by a reduction in overtime pay based on the current staffing structure. Department and school-specific requests have also been reviewed, and the estimated net cost of the staffing changes and requests to date is $540,000. Administration is still identifying final staffing model changes and recommendations, and an updated list of positions and any related cost impact will be shared at the next governing board meeting. The final approved compensation increases will be subject to the policy-based requirement that the employee has been with the district at least half the year. The budget team also voted to recommend leaving professional growth for all groups at the current fiscal year 2020 level. The budget team and administration understands that it will take several years to address compression and compensation concerns related to funding cuts that were a result of reduced state level funding over the years. All new funding amounts that the district is receiving are prospective and not retroactive. Compensation priorities will need to be managed in the future with relevant data inputs and clearly identified priorities to support decision making. This year, the budget team was provided an example of a multi-year compensation plan, which will be contingent on future base support level formulas and state funding levels, as well as the continuation of the 13% M&O override. The Joint Legislative Budget Committee, also referred to as the JLBC, has stated that the true economic impact of COVID-19 is not known, and current virus projections are extremely speculative and are changing week by week. As a result, economic forecasting is significantly more challenging than usual at this time. The state of Arizona just reported it projects the COVID-19 pandemic will reduce fourth quarter general fund revenues by 24%, and the JLBC is projecting a potential $1.1 billion shortfall by the end of fiscal year 2021, with the disclaimer that that estimate could be off by $500 million in either direction. The new forecast will be revisited at least once in June 2020, when policymakers have better information on the budget picture prior to beginning fiscal year 2021. In addition, the Joint Legislative Budget Committee did not publish the estimated classroom site fund, or also known as Prop 301 amount per weighted student count for fiscal year 2021 last week, as we had expected. We understand that this calculation is very difficult this year because it's impacted by sales tax revenue and may now be more challenging to calculate and perhaps lower than originally expected. These evolving considerations will impact final recommendations and decisions for the next fiscal year. Tonight's presentation is for information purposes only to share an update on the budget process to date and the budget team's recommendations to date. It is important to note that the recommendations that have been made this year were based on previous economic information and state budget projections that were known at the time. In recent days, this information has been changing to a more negative outlook as it is further determined if the recovery from COVID-19 will be rapid or prolonged over time. Over the last 2 years, compensation recommendations have been approved by the governing board in late April. However, due to the impact of the COVID-19 crisis and evolving revenue and funding concerns at the state level, the governing board can choose to approve final compensation recommendations at a later date to ensure the most relevant economic and funding information is available to evaluate in conjunction with compensation and budget recommendations that are presented. This concludes tonight's presentation. I am available to answer your questions. Thank you.
Mrs. Myers, thank you very much for the presentation, and also thank you for being sensitive or mindful to the potential impact of COVID-19, right? And then lastly, thank you for just the additional time to allow the board to really absorb the different scenarios over the course of a few board meetings to really make an informed decision. So really appreciate that. That said, was somebody going to say something before I start speaking? I apologize. No? Okay, perfect. That said, Ms. Doan, questions, comments?
Well, that was a little bit of a change, Ms. Myers, and I have to say, I don't mean, I could hear you better than usual. It's terrible, but I could hear very well, and I appreciate the presentation, and putting all this together. I cannot imagine what a nightmare it must be to have to work with all these uncertainties and everything changing, and I appreciate the effort, and I know it's going to take a while for everybody to digest, and I do thank you for presenting and showing us the things that are being taken into, that you are taking things into consideration, and we are almost certainly going to have to make adjustments in the budget and taking things as priorities that are going to have to be done considering our hopeful soon economic recovery. And I thank you for a fine presentation and for really having your head in the game, I guess I would say. It was excellent work. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Down. Ms. Underhill?
Yes, I just want to thank you as well. I know it's just got to be crazy, just day to day, minute to minute, as decisions are made at a federal level that trickle down to the state level, and then just trying to decipher all that at a local level. So kudos to you and your team. And I also agree. I recognize, obviously, that this is based on current information, and a lot of things are going to change. But I think it's really important that we have laid those plans and shown that we are committed to some of those improvements that we wanted to make, especially around our salary structure, our salary schedule. And I just think it's important for our community and our teams to see the vision even in these uncertain times, because someday we will get through this, hopefully someday sooner rather than later. So I think it's good to have that plan and just recognize the uncertainties as we move along until we're in the recovery period. So thank you for your work, and I know you're going to continue to work on this day and night, but yes, just appreciate all your diligence.
Thank you for that, Ms. Underhill. Ms. Spingarelli?
Yes, I just wanted to thank Mrs. Myers also for all the hard work. I did have a question on the new minimum salary for incoming teachers. It looks like it's 13.5%. I guess was the main, I guess, how did you come up with that? Was it mainly because of the 20 by 20?
President Sandoval, Mrs. Pingarelli, may I ask for clarification with your question? Are you asking how we identified the minimum floor, if you will, for a starting teacher or a newer teacher's salary?
Well, it's mainly how, I know the newer teachers weren't able to take advantage of the 20 by 20, and it looks like it's a 13.5% increase. I just wanted to see how you came up with a 13.5.
It would not be a 13.5% increase for all newer teachers.
Okay.
We actually took the salaries for all of our teachers and identified where they landed within the bands. And then we identified a number that were below 40,000.
Okay.
Then calculated what I'll call an effective salary schedule. And what I mean by that is going back to the beginning of the 20 by 2020 funding, we then took that existing salary schedule that was last approved in 14-15, and we then applied if a teacher had come in at any one of those steps, if you will, and then they received not only the 10% in the first year and then the 5% in the second year and the projected 5% increase next year, coupled with the classroom site fund increases that over the last 3 years have ranged from 5% to 3%. And then we had looked at the potential of 10% if, again, the funding levels come in and are consistent with fiscal 2020. So I want to temper all of these assumptions with that comment. There was then movement, and you could actually see what the effective salary schedule would be compared to what was published. We then looked at where people had landed and the number of teachers, that original 302 count after the 5% increase and an effective 10% increase to classroom site fund, how many were left that would need to therefore move. And so it ranges, it's not a flat 13%. Some would get a larger amount, others would get a very small additional increase.
Thank you very much. And just a couple quick comments. I know this time is extremely crazy, and looking at, I guess this is all based on assuming a minimum of a 13% M&O override, assuming current year enrollment projections. So just with that in mind, I would like to, at least as one governing board, kind of push this action item, voting item, as late as possible as we can. It looks like that would be May 14th, just to see how things are kind of shaking out in the next few weeks. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Pingarelli. Ms. Sarah Martinez?
Thank you. Just to echo Ms. Pingarelli, I want to add to that and say I agree. The more time we are given to make these decisions, I am in support of. So the farthest date possible, I'm going to ask as well. Ms. Myers, thank you for your leadership. I only know a handful of people who like to talk about money, and when you have to talk about budgets, it does become personal. There's no doubt about it. These are people's lives we're talking about, so emotion does run through these meetings. So thank you for maintaining your composure and being professional. I appreciate that, and as well as the community, the committee members dedicating their volunteer time and the other peers and colleagues for the best interest of our district. With that in mind, I would like to continue to know more information. One, on the governing board side, we What problems are we trying to solve? We received an audit, and in the famous words of our superintendent, what problem are we trying to solve here with this budget? So I would like our governing board to consider, what are we asking the committee to prioritize? Which will lend me to the question to Ms. Myers. What did the committee identify are their top priorities when making this recommendation to the board?
President Sandoval, Mrs. Ceja Martinez, members of the board. The committee has a number of priorities, and we tried to align those priorities to a 5-year plan, and I provided that example slide. We do not have enough funding to address each committee member's priorities. For instance, people are still concerned about compression from funding cuts that have occurred in the past, as an example. But one of the biggest priorities that were discussed, and it was also highlighted by the governing board at the retreat in January, and our superintendent actually attended a couple of the meetings as well, and talked about our newer teacher salaries, that we were having a very difficult time attracting teachers to Peoria because our sister districts are paying a higher starting wage or providing other compensation packages that we're challenged to compete with. And so that became a guiding principle priority this year. As I mentioned, the statistic also from the vote, there was a feeling that it would be a unified compensation recommendation that all employee groups should be considered together versus segmenting out one from the other. Those were some of the comments, but the main priority was the teacher beginning salary that was discussed at length.
I think you may be on mute, Monica.
I am. Thank you, President Sandoval. Ms. Myers, since great point in bringing that 5% across the board. What was the rationale in distributing a 5% for each group criteria, each group of employees?
Well, what I can share is we were asked for a number of compensation scenarios by the team, and they were framed with everything from years of service of, say, a longevity stipend, as an example, to could you have different bands as high as 6%, or based on the year of hire, could you have multiple percentages to choose from? So as I mentioned, there were 10 scenarios that were provided. So as the team members asked for different options, we provided the funding amount. The team actually landed on the 555 model. It was not recommended by administration, and the majority of the members asked that we bring that forward. So they landed on one recommendation. Now, the governing board certainly can ask for other options. The budget team provides input as the employee groups, the representatives of our team members, and they identified as a group that would be a priority. But again, we have funding constraints now that were not really something that was a consideration just a few weeks back. When I provide the legislative update later today, I'll mention that, through third quarter, Arizona was third in the nation for momentum, and we were on track for exceeding revenue projections at a state level, and all things were really on track. And so some of these recommendations and projections came through that January through April timeline, where earlier on we had solid information. We all felt good about the data, and then COVID-19 struck. So it is certainly within the board's purview to ask for other options. As I've shared, we will need to be bringing back any modifications at a state level because this is fluid and evolving. The intent tonight was to provide an information update of the work that has been done and the recommendations from the team to date.
I I appreciate that insight, Ms. Myers, and I would like to take you up on that offer of getting a variety of options. And you are correct. We're having to pivot as a result of our current crisis and funding models. So I would like to support that the board be presented with options with different scenarios. You also bring up what it sounds to me, and correct me if I'm wrong, that the years of service correlates with slide number, the slide where it identifies the salary model, where 1415 was the last time we touched it. And if you bring it up, great. If not, I'll just speak to it. I would like to see the salary ranges and the amount of employees that fall under each group as it correlates to years of service. I had requested an email, and I appreciate you providing that baseline information of employees under which category. So I am trying to understand between certified classroom teacher, we know that the 20 by 20 by 20, some of that is mandated, and we have to give that. Is that correct?
We receive additional funding that's earmarked for classroom teachers coded to function 1000. It's important to note that the funding that's received as part of the 20% by 2020 is based on the 2017 average teacher salary statewide. So it's not Peoria specific, but what we do then is include that funding in addition to our inflation funding, as well as I mentioned previously, other factors, our override, any associated increase to the override, that then allows us to see what new monies are available for compensation. But the funding amount that we receive for 20 by 2020 is intended for classroom teachers who are coded to function 1000.
Thank you, and I appreciate that breakdown. So here's where I'm getting at a couple of things. When you come back, I think first, I definitely want to be able to give a percentage rate increase based on inflation, and looking at historical figures and going to the labor statistics. The baseline for 2020 is around 2.3%. So considering all staffing models at the rate of inflation. The next thing I would think about is the problem that we're trying to solve. We got an audit that shows our classroom teachers way below our neighboring districts. So that would be one problem I want to solve, or how do we close that gap? And the next thing are classified staff. We continually hear as the board level, we need to come back to a board meeting to increase bus pay because we can't recruit any. So when I think of prioritizing, and I would like the board to have a candid conversation about this and give clear direction to our committee, we value every single person in this group. But Ms. Myers, you've highlighted there is not enough money to help move and solve the dial on these problems. So for me, it's inflation as a priority, and then we meet state statutes with whatever the law says we have to give per function. Then we go our teachers are classified. And if that means considering decreasing administrative pay, which we are below our neighboring districts, and we do value them, but we have such larger gaps that we need to address first. The other thing is, and Dr. Davidson, I did wanted to bring up, when you go through your hiring, what are the group of employees that we have the hardest time to fill or the highest retention rates or attrition rates, excuse me?
President Sandoval, Ms. Martinez, members of the board. Right now, I would share with you that we are seeing our greatest need to hire within a lot of our related service providers, those that are supporting kids with disabilities. So your occupational therapist, your physical therapist, school psychologist, special education teachers with more of a focus in those students that have behavioral needs or those with autism. Some of our harder to fill classrooms, I would share with you. And when we also look at positions such as the school nurse, that is certainly one we look to fill. From a certified staff point, I think the other things we look at, of course, always are those math and sciences, those very specialized positions such as physics, for example, are hard to fill. I appreciate the work on behalf of the budget team and our team as a whole But I'll share with you my even broader answer to that would be if we don't support a change in our starting salary for teachers, every position will become hard to fill. Thank you.
Thank you for that information. One more question for you, Dr. Davidson. When we consider our administrative staff, do you know what the attrition rate percentage is?
Ms. Ceja Martinez, President Sandoval, members of the board. What I do know is our retention rate typically in those positions remains very high, except for those that are either, of course, retiring or in some cases looking for another business opportunity, so to speak. If you go back and look at that data, Mrs. Ceja Martinez, that you discussed, our district level administrative salaries, I believe, were as behind as somewhere in 13% range. So I do believe for certain positions, we are farther behind, and I think it was the 8% at the site level where we were behind. So those are just a few of the reasons, but we do overall, I think, for a variety of reasons, one being the culture that you've heard about and felt tonight, we do have a pretty good retention rate of our administrative team.
Thank you for that. And it's very clear and obvious, at least to me, that we have competing priorities and we're going to have to make some difficult decisions. Ms. Myers, I would like to, as 1/5 of the governing board member, to go back to the committee and prioritize our classified staff and our certified teachers and decrease the administrative percentage and not going below the rate of inflation, recognizing we in all areas are below our neighboring districts, but we have to start somewhere. And that's where I'll stand.
Thank you, Ms. Ceja Martinez, for your comments. And Ms. Myers, thank you for the presentation. Like everyone has stated, there are a lot of moving parts, so having to kind of some assumptions around what may be coming around the corner. From a budgetary perspective, I know that's not easy. So certainly appreciate your diligence and forward thinking there. I do agree with Ms. Pingarelli, around giving us the most amount of time. Again, to make informed decisions around the budget for the subsequent year. A couple of things for me, I do appreciate, when you take a look at the 2 to 3 year plan, you do have in there looking at performance pay for our classified staff. I think that's important. Ms. Ceja Martinez touched on our classified associates and and I don't disagree. I think, look, there's no doubt that our ask is something that's not going to happen overnight, right? So when we take a look at 2008 recession and then coming out of it, we weren't part of the board, as we were coming out of that 2008 recession. And, there were probably some decisions that may have been made that, potentially, maybe didn't consider, the classified individuals or other considerations. So it's going to take a little bit to get out of that. And again, it's not going to happen overnight. But that said, one thing I would like to add to the 2 to 5 year plan is, we talked about, compensation for our staff over the governing board approved holidays, spring break, Christmas break, and maybe in short order, we even give them, if we can't do that, quickly, then, maybe we take a look at allowing them to at least giving them the option to use their, discretionary time, over those time frames where they're not being paid. And I'll say I'm going to have to agree with Ms. Ceja Martinez. I mean, I do feel that we need to prioritize our classified staff going into the subsequent year. I think if you take a look at, the average salary, right, or let's say average weekly pay of a classified staff associate, and then apply that 5%, it's going to be a lot less than, the average salary of administrators, and applying that 5%, right? So, I'd like to understand what that looks like. And if that means me asking for that towards the end of the board meeting as a Friday report, I just kind of want to get a picture of, what that increase really looks like from a monetary perspective. Again, average salary or average weekly pay from a classified staff times the 5%, and then the average salary of an administrator times that 5%. That said, I would love to see, another view that does prioritize our classified staff and certainly our teachers, and see where that sits. But again, I do appreciate. You're always listening and always making decisions, with others in mind, and having that very just compassionate mindset as you work with the budget committees and your team. So thank you for that. Board members, any other questions for Ms. Myers? Comments? Okay, perfect. Ms. Myers, thank you again for your time.
Mr. Sandoval?
Yes.
I just wanted to show you I was still up. I was, you can't see me, so I just wanted you to know I was here. What I just want to remind the board, you're right. Mrs. Sayas Martinez and yourself are correct. We do need to bring this back a couple more times. And I know Mrs. Myers was adamant on that because things are changing at the very minute. I believe that at some of our retreats, and as we started to look at the 5-year plan, we had heard the classified. We had heard that we want to make sure that we attract and retain people, and the only way, and attract first. I think we can retain them by having the right environment as well as the right salary, but attract is key. So I'm hearing that the starting salary piece is there. As many ideas as the budget team comes, and they're wonderful and they work hard, and they, as you suggested, Mrs. Sayas Martinez, they do work for free and they represent their groups and they do so very aptly. This is the board's decision. And frequently what we've done, I've seen in the past, is budget committee made a recommendation, and then it was kind of like that was what was expected. Especially now, it's going to be very important to make the decisions that as a board. The committee is a advisory group. It is a representative group. It is doing wonderful work. They're very smart, but it is truly your decision and your vote that determines policy and budget. And so please make sure that you're advising the team correctly as to, as Mrs. Sayas Martinez said, the priorities. They can't all be priorities. The money's not, no matter what, even in a good day, we don't have the money to do all the things we want to do. You have a 5-year plan, but there's certain things that are urgent. And I would agree that classified starting salary, perhaps additional, whatever that we put stipends in for hard to fill positions. Those I think are going to be the major top 3 priorities. I've heard each of you talk about those in a different way. And Ms. Pengarelli, you're right. As late as we can do this is what we need to do.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you for that, Superintendent Pallas-Thompson. Okay, moving along. Agenda line item 9.1, budget facilities planning and construction reports. These reports, as always, can be found online. 9.2, report on upcoming meetings and events. Miss Ari?
President Sandoval, I think you have everything updated there for future board meetings. Just one quick side note that I would point out, as we are kind of progressing through our plan and our response to coronavirus, we are certainly also making contact with other community groups. So we have our first Faith Council meeting that is coming up, and we'll be doing that using the Teams platform as well. That is on Tuesday morning, and certainly if the governing board would like to participate in that, we can get you additional information on that as well.
Perfect. Yes, please do. Thank you. It'd be great to have the option. Board members, anything that you don't see on the upcoming meetings and events calendar that you'd like to add?
President Sandoval?
Yes, Ms. Martinez.
I just want to add with the teams, because I'm a little bit more familiar, I see all these awesome platforms and groups. I know as a board we have a challenging time getting to all our schools. I would like to put it out there that and I'm sure all of you would like invites as to check in with some of these groups, tell them how thank you personally, send us an invite. At least for me, my schedule is a little bit more flexible, especially it's a virtual invite to a meeting. And so I just wanted to put that out there.
Perfect. Yes, thank you for that. Very good. Thank you, Ms. Eyre. Okay, moving on to the next line item, which is the legislative, state, and local updates. Ms. Myers.
Good evening again, President Sandoval, members of the governing board, and Mrs. Pallas-Thompson. I've actually touched on a number of the points within tonight's legislative update. Just to reiterate that today the State Financial Advisory Committee met to review and discuss the Joint Legislative Budget Committee's updated state budget forecast. And as I mentioned in my previous presentation, the COVID-19 crisis has had an immense impact on the state of Arizona's revenues and projected revenues. I commented earlier that prior to the COVID-19 pandemic, general fund revenues were up 8.1% through March of 2020, and Arizona ranked third nationally for economic momentum. Now, this economic strength prior to COVID-19, we believe will help put Arizona in a better position for the COVID-19 recession, but it's still a significant impact. The Joint Legislative Budget Committee anticipates that the fourth quarter revenue will decrease by 24%, as I mentioned earlier, and the Joint Legislative Budget Committee is projecting possible shortfalls as high as $1.1 billion next year, with the caveat that that could be off by $500 million in either direction. But at the end of the day, the main takeaway from this update is all projections are speculative and changing weekly, and it's very difficult for the state and the legislature to develop any long-term plans to address the projected shortfall at this time because it is so fluid. And so with that, the projections will be revisited before June 30th to update these numbers going into the new fiscal year. And you may recall that each year we set our budget, propose it in June and adopt it in July. So administration will continue to update the governing board as more information becomes available. Thank you, and that concludes my report.
Thank you, Ms. Myers. Superintendent Pallas-Thompson, anything to add there? I think you might be on mute. I'll take that as a no. Moving along to other business. So 10.1, board member opportunity to readdress agenda items. Ms. Doan?
I don't have anything further, thank you.
Okay. Ms. Andreu?
I don't have anything either, thank you.
All right. Ms. Pingarelli?
No, I'm good.
Okay, perfect. Ms. Sam Martinez?
No, thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, moving right along to 10.2, draft agenda for the April 23rd, 2020 regular board meeting. I know we have a meeting tomorrow to discuss the subsequent board meetings, so we'll get that populated and out to the community and our fellow board members as soon as possible. Perfect. Thank you for that. 10.3, request for agenda items for future governing board meetings. Ms. Stone?
No, I don't have any. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Underhill?
I don't have anything either. I know that we'll be, getting additional reiterations of the budget plan, and that's the only thing. So I don't have anything specific. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Pingrelli?
Nothing this evening.
Okay. And Ms. Sayar Martinez?
Nothing as well.
All right. I don't have any items either.
Mr. Sandoval, President
Yes.
Sandoval.
Yes, sir.
Now, this is Jason Reynolds. Now would be an appropriate time for one of our dissenting votes on our earlier agenda item regarding our partnerships with some of our developers to request, because we didn't table it, because we voted that down, now would be the time for one of those dissenting votes, if they wanted to bring it back for discussion, to motion that and get a second.
Yeah, good point. Thank you for that. Yes. So, I mean, if I can retract my not having an item for a future governing board meeting, if we can make sure that, apologize, that we bring back, let's see if I can find it here real quick, the approval of the estoppel certificate regarding the Vistancia Developer Assistance Agreement.
I'll second that.
Thank you.
Thank you for that.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay. Moving along, 11.1, I need a motion for adjournment.
I'll move that we adjourn the meeting.
Second.
Thank you. So we have a motion by Ms. Stone and a second by Ms. Underhill. Please cast your votes. Ms. Contra, do you want to do a voice vote?
Thank you, President Sandoval. Yes. Mrs. Pingarelli?
Aye.
Mr. Sandoval?
Aye.
Mrs. Stone?
Aye.
Mrs. Martinez?
Aye.
And Mrs. Underhill?
Aye. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Motion passes 5-0. Board members, thank you very much, for your time. District leadership, everybody have a great evening and be safe.
Good night.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good night.
Good night.
Good night.